2, 3, 4 days of just consuming fat. What's the point? Well, there's some huge benefits to it, but I'm going to explain how to do a fat fast and who will benefit mostly from a fat fast, because it's really an intriguing thing and you can get a lot of benefit from it. So it sounds like it'd be super simple, like you just consume a bunch of fat for a few days and that's it. But there's actually a little bit more granularity that we have to get with it, right? There's different kinds of fats that get us different benefits, and fat fasting really has some powerful, lofty goals when we look at it. So let's explain what we are after first. I'll give you a brief explanation because I did another video on this, but you might be popping into this video at another time. All right, the whole goal with fat fasting is, for lack of a better term, to marinate our cells in fat so that our cells send the proper signal or receive the proper signal to become more efficient at utilizing fat. It's like we are using fat as a tool to prime our bodies to get really good at using fat in the future. So someone might want to do a fat fast because they really want to condition their body to use fats so that when they do go into a deficit at another point in time, their body preferentially wants to use fat because their body's so ready to go and so incubated and used to using fat, it just wants to use it. It prioritizes it. That's what we're after with fat fasting. And it all comes down to how we activate something. So there's something called PPAR, which normally doesn't get activated until longer into a fast. So think about this. If you're doing like a 48-hour traditional fast where you're not eating for 48 hours, at that 48-hour mark, you have a lot of fatty acids that are in your bloodstream. At that point, your body's burned through glycogen, it's burned through carbs, and it's liberating almost exclusively fats, which means your cells are swimming in fat. Well, we can cheat the system a little bit and get your cells to swim in fat by keeping calories relatively low, but still consuming fat. So with a fat fast, you're still consuming like 1,000 or 1,500 calories. You're just not consuming anything else. You're consuming fats. Some of the fats that you would be consuming would be like coconut oil, straight up ghee, okay, MCT oil, olive oil, avocado oil, straight up lard, okay, 0 carbs, 0 protein, okay, because we are trying to, again, get those cells to be swimming in fat. Because once those cells receive that fatty acid signal, they activate this whole fat adaptation process. Okay, so we're jumping the line here. So who benefits from this? Okay, the people that really want to do this should be people that are trying to get themselves more fat adapted, also beginners to intermittent fasting, because intermittent fasting can be tough to do, or people that haven't done a longer fast before. It's great because you can utilize these days, 2, 3, 4 days, where you're still consuming a good amount of calories so you don't get as hungry, but you're also jumping the line and getting your body very fat adapted. Also tremendous for people that are doing a keto diet already and have been doing it for a long period of time and are looking to break through a plateau, okay? Because maybe their bodies aren't as fat adapted as they thought they were, and they need a quick little cattle prod to kind of zap them and get a little bit more fat adapted. So it works great for that. Okay, also for those that are trying to get more ketones in their blood. More ketones equals more therapeutic response. There are a lot of people out there that chase ketones. There's nothing wrong with it. We want to get higher levels of ketones because we want different benefits. So anyhow, lots of reasons to fat fast. How frequently should you fat fast? I would say do a 2 to 4 day fat fast every 60 days or so. It really does help the cells condition. It really does help that PPAR alpha activation. Okay, but how do you do it? Here's what it looks like. You can eat as frequently as you want with a fat fast. Okay, you can eat graze throughout the day because it's not going to matter because you're not spiking any insulin with pure fat. You might a little bit through some acylation stimulating pathways, but that's not for this video. Okay, 50% of your calories should be coming from saturated fat. Why is this? Saturated fat is going to trigger a specific kind of autophagy. Okay, it's called a canonical pathway, canonical autophagy, where it's just the inhibition of mTOR. Long story short, saturated fat works that way. The other 50% of your calories, again, 1,000 to 1,500 total, the other 50% is going to come from unsaturated fats. Okay, so these are going to be things like olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, be things like avocado oil, okay? And also the polyunsaturated fats that we need to have a little bit of. So of that 50% unsaturated fats, I want 80% of those to be made up by EVOO, extra virgin olive oil, and also avocado oil, and the occasional like macadamia nut oil just to get some palmitoleic acid, okay? So half of your calories coming from saturated fat, half of your calories from unsaturated. Within that unsaturated paradigm, I want 80% to be EVOO, macadamia, or avocado oil. The remaining 20% can be a mix of MCT oil, because it's faster acting, creates ketones, okay, but also things like cod liver oil, fish oil, any polyunsaturated fat. Okay, we do want a little bit of those because we still want our omega-3s. Okay, so cod liver oil is nice because you can add that into the mix and not have to have a capsule like with a fish oil, because the capsule, gelatin, technically it's going to break down into something different. Okay, so you want to do this for like 2, 3, 4 days, right? When you break a fat fast, do not just go right into eating food. This is where I would highly, highly, highly recommend breaking it with some bone broth. And the reason is because bone broth is going to contain a little bit of gelatin and a little bit of collagen without a high abundance of protein. So it's a great entryway. Okay, you've been consuming fats, which means you are not really having that collagen matrix to help you out there. So the bone broth is going to at least segue you into consuming some food. I think that's very, very important if you're trying to get the benefits of a fat fast. If you want to use the bone broth that I recommend, there's a link down below for some special savings on Kettle and Fire. Kettle and Fire, by the way, was like one of the OG original sponsors on this channel. They have worked with me for so long. So there's a special link down below if you want to save a few bucks and get some good old-fashioned bone broth. See, I like them because they add apple cider vinegar to it as well. Apple cider vinegar was going to help the mineralization, so it's going to help us utilize more of the minerals that we're getting from that bone broth. It also improves the bioavailability in a lot of ways. So the collagen in the bone broth is going to draw some water back into the gut, preparing you to be able to eat a little bit more, okay? So definitely want to make sure you're doing that, whether you're making it at home or you're using that link down below, okay? Okay, so after you have the bone broth, then you want to introduce some lean protein. Do not have fats with this lean protein. Okay, you have enough pancreatic lipase floating around from all the fats you've been consuming. So it's really important to break again with lean protein. Remember what's going to happen. Okay, your protein requirements have not been met. So once you consume protein, you're going to feel ravenously hungry for more protein, but don't just shovel it in. Okay, your stomach has likely shrunk. Fats contain 9 calories per gram. Carbs and protein contain 4 calories per gram. So that means the overall volume of food that you've been consuming is greatly condensed. So you've probably had a lot of what's called stomach distensibility, right? So your stomach shrank. So it's going to cause a lot of disruption if you try to suddenly consume a bunch of protein. So you're going to have to incrementally increase the amount of protein that you consume. Otherwise, you're going to run into some trouble. The good news is you're super fat adapted now. So what I would recommend if you want to get an extra surge of fat loss after your fat fasting regime is take a day or two where you go relatively low fat. Because think of it like this. You just shifted gears. And the way that I have explained it in other videos is like you've got the train tracks, right? You know how those train tracks come to a Y and one set of tracks will go to the left, one set of tracks will go to the right, and you have this big lever that you have to pull to shift from left to the right track? Well, one track is like standard diet, right? The other track is the glorious fat adaptation. It takes a lot of work to move that rusty lever and get you over to fat adaptation. But once you're there, your train is going that way. Fat fasting pulls that lever a lot easier. And fat fasting makes it so that lever had some WD-40. So now it migrates over a lot faster. So now that your train is driving down the fat burning track, it makes sense to do a day or two where you don't consume fat. Why? Because the body's going to still be craving fat. So where is it going to pull it from? It's going to pull it from your body. Because hey, you've been giving me fat for the last 3 or 4 days. Now I want some fat, but you're not giving it to me. Well, shoot, I guess I'm going to do whatever I can to get that fat because all of your cells are using fat now because you've made them fat adapted. Okay, so 2, 3, 4 days with 1,000 to 1,500 calories of fat, and then 1 to 2 days of low fat by high contrast. You should not feel super hungry as long as you're getting enough protein on those follow-up days. Okay, and then make sure you're breaking that fat fast with the bone broth before you bring the protein in. After that, you can ease into your regular diet, ease into your regular fasting. I would recommend that you experiment with some other fasts after this because you'll probably find it a lot easier if you successfully did this fat fast. It's just gonna kind of prime your body for that. So anyhow, as always, that's a breakdown on how to do a fat fast. If you wanna see the more detailed video on the benefits and the cellular process, then I'll link to that video down below. We can also do a quick YouTube search for Thomas DeLauer fat fasting. I'll see you tomorrow.